There we go. Classic me. Yeah. No, I caught it. We caught that one early. Welcome back, everybody. It's good to be streaming again. Been a while. I tried to get back into the habit of doing this, and that lasted for 1 week. But hopefully, can get back in a little more of a routine. For those of you guys watching me for the first time, welcome. My name is Steven. I am a full-time trader of nearly the last 10 years or so. Trade a lot of crypto normally. Not so much these days. It's been ugly out there. I titled the stream about 8 minutes before that candle this morning. So I guess the answer to the question is yes. Yes, crypto is nuking. But is this a fake out? Is this the real deal? How low are we going to go? Is the bull run over? I'll try to address all of these questions in the stream. If you guys aren't subscribed, go ahead and sub to the channel. Helps me out. You can also find me on X, and I've got the free Magic Lines channel in the Alfalfa Discord, where I give the live market updates. If you guys want to join that, as well as the premium, there's some codes in the description there for y'all. But feel free to just follow me or join the free channel. Anyway, let's jump right into things in Orient. So I haven't been tweeting a lot lately. Been kind of focusing on the trading for a while, and then kind of taking a break and kind of doing most of the posting in the Discord. But I was pretty long last week with a really tight invalidation on Ethereum. And Friday, the Friday close came, and I looked at the charts, and I pretty much immediately told the gang that we're out. I told the premium group I closed out our swing long around break even, around 3850 ETH, and sold down a bunch of my crypto spot portfolio. I had already been selling a lot coming into October, just kind of moving stuff into stock land, because honestly, stocks have just been a better thing to trade and a better thing to be invested in. You've been getting the same, if not a lot more return, depending on what you're investing in, for way less volatility. So it's kind of like a lose-lose being in crypto for the most part, unless you've just been like a Bitcoin hodler for years. These are my my blue light blocking glasses. My other wallet is a whale. It's starting to my eyes are starting to melt from staring at all these screens in front of me all day. So so this is my look now. This is my just got out of bed from I went to a rave this weekend. Been going to the raves again. Old man at rave. It was a good time. Unencumbered by the dumping of the coins, enjoying life. But yeah, let's get into it. That's enough chit chat. What's going on here? Let's start with going over some of the high time frame charts. Let's get off the low time frame. Let's zoom out a little bit. Like talking a little bit about the high frame in this, so that I don't have to redo the video every 6 hours. It's kind of nice. I like to look at the total chart to reorient myself to stuff once in a while. This is the total market cap of all things crypto, big picture crypto. How did the monthly close look in October? The answer, not good. Not a good candle. Not a good candle. Why is this a bad candle? Well, we've had a couple recent attempts to put in new highs, high, sweep, sweep, right? Failure to close above. This candle basically engulfs the September candle in a bearish way, right? Expectation in the coming months or days or however long it takes is for this low to be traded at a minimum. I would say the structure of the overall crypto market is still okay. It's still fine. If I zoom out to the quarterly chart, this is still just an uptrend. There are still candles closing above prior uptrend candles. So that's all well and good. But a 3-month chart can put you in physical pain for a very long period of time without it actually doing anything bearish, you know? So keep that in mind. But to go back to the monthly, I view this as just a strong crypto uptrend. Crypto in aggregate, right? There's some nuance here in that once we zoom into crypto and we start parsing away everything that's not Bitcoin, this picture changes a little bit. But that being said, I just view this as our sort of last monthly bullish zone. There was a question of whether we were going to sort of like accept outside the range and then push up, or accept back inside the range, at which point I expect at a minimum the mid-range of this zone to be traded. And then there's always a chance we kind of like visit some areas in the range lows, right? We have all of this demand here from the tariff era that has not been touched, right? So I would say crypto in aggregate, cycle not over. Cycle as in like a multi-year period of pain or something like that you might go through. I think we're fine there, right? Now, when it comes to the Bitcoin chart looks similar. The Bitcoin chart has been basically carrying all of the rest of the crypto market, right? And you can see Bitcoin, similar thing. We've got a pretty obvious bullish zone here. Not expecting price to immediately come and just dump there. I would think at a minimum you would get some sort of nice bounce trade. This is fine structurally, right? The structural expectation is for some sort of dip into this area and back up. However many months this takes to play out, that's what's going to happen. And that could be maybe like a 30-something% pullback, which is normal. It's completely normal, right? This was 33% here. This was 33% here. Even this little one, what was this? This little one down here, this was still 25%, right? So all of this is totally well and fine. People are in pain, I think, because they don't own Bitcoin, or because, we've just been going sideways for a bit. Really, since the election pump, it's just been kind of a nothing to. Jen Sinius here for the alpha on how to find late 30s and 40s friends that go to rave. Just start dating a younger girl, and then you just do things. You just do things again. Anyway, the thing that concerns me about Bitcoin, right? The concerning thing is when I start looking at some other technicals, and it makes me think, could this get worse, right? Could this actually be a top? The most concerning thing for me is the RSI here, right? You can see I don't like this color. Let's make that easier to see. You can see a very clear bearish divergence here. This is kind of like a 3 drives pattern, right? You have this big impulsive push up, and then another impulsive push up, and then like these moves up, they get less strong. So higher highs on the RSI, excuse me, on price, lower lows on the RSI. Not usually a good look, right? Typically when this happens and it plays out, I will say that often these sort of things, they do resolve to the upside. I can show you some examples of these kind of resolving to the upside. So this isn't like it's definitely all over, but it's a thing to keep in mind for sure. It'd be silly to not pay attention to this. And normally you would expect RSI to at least reset to 50 and then continue trend, right? But that would take us maybe only down to here. Like we could get a reset down here. But if we do more than reset, then we've got to start looking back to this range here. And then my eye is sort of like immediately drawn to the mid-range. If we were to go back into this zone, potentially maybe take out some of this liquidity, some of these areas here, that would be pretty nasty, like kind of like a 40K move for Bitcoin. That would be in line with your typical kind of sell-off. I know it's kind of hard to envision how could that happen, but like it always is before it does, you know? So is the solution here to sell everything? No, but we can at least take a step back and say like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be balls long this shit right now, right? Another reason to not, be turbo long crypto in general, but even Bitcoin. Like I've shown you that crypto looks okay. Bitcoin looks the best in crypto. So maybe you want to hold Bitcoin. But like if your other option is to hold like say like the NASDAQ or, tech stocks, Bitcoin versus the NASDAQ, it doesn't look good. This is a shitty chart. This is a bad chart, right? This is your prior mega high time frame range, and this is just like clear failure to close above this range, right? So where is the expectation of the next target? Like probably the mid range, right? And then if that doesn't hold, then I don't know, you could go all the way back down here and up, right? But should you be overweight Bitcoin here? No. And I was talking about this in the Discord, last month, and, basically took out a lot of crypto exposure here and just moved it to stocks because it's not necessarily a question of being like long or short. It's a question of like, what do you want to be long? Like if you want to be a risk taker, well, you want to get paid for taking your risk. And this is just not an attractive area to be long at range highs, right? You want to be long, at range lows. Maybe long at the mid range here is okay because this, you could say this is like at least like bullish structure maybe. But I don't like the length of the consolidation here at range highs and failure to relative to the length of this consolidation. It makes me think it could take it out. And that is not fun to me. Ollie, why hold Bitcoin over the Bitcoin miners? Well, because the Bitcoin miners are dog shit investments. They are really interesting assets to trade, but I don't know that they have long-term value. There's also some nuance in the Bitcoin miners now because a lot of them have kind of like pivoted to AI and some of them hold Bitcoin. Some of them don't hold as much Bitcoin. So it's like a bit of a mess, but it's kind of complicated. Like if you want exposure to Bitcoin and you have a Bitcoin thesis, then you should just buy Bitcoin, right? And if you want more exposure to Bitcoin, then you should just buy leveraged Bitcoin by like adding like options on top of your Bitcoin or something like that, right? Like if you buy Bitcoin miners because you want faster Bitcoin or something, well, you're exposed to a whole bunch of other risk factors that like you might not be like properly understanding, right? And you think you're buying exposure to one thing, but then you're not. And Bitcoin goes up and then your other investment doesn't go up, or it doesn't go up enough given the volatility it gives you for a reason you didn't understand. Like you should have just bought the Bitcoin in the first place, right? So My assessment to people right now would be to hold stocks over Bitcoin, right? And don't sell all your Bitcoin, but like NASDAQ is more attractive here. It is. It may go up more and it will almost certainly go down less. So that is kind of, it's a real lose-lose, right? The only reason I haven't like sold more of my Bitcoin is because like I am trying to not do too much trading in my like retirement bucket, right? Like I'm trying to. It's hard because sometimes like I know that shit is going down. I know it's going down, but I'm just like I think back to the 1,200 or so Bitcoin I owned in 2013 that I thought I timed the market very well on and did at the time because I sold the $250 top, which was not the top as it turns out. So don't be like me. So yeah, don't overweight crypto right now. Like if I was buying crypto from scratch right now, buying crypto and stocks, like I would not be overweighting crypto, right? So that might mean like, I don't know, 10 to 20%, like if you're younger, something like that. And like I can make a good argument for underweighting it, right? Because if it goes up, you'll still be happy it goes up. Your stocks will go up too. You'll feel good. If it goes down, you maintain the optionality to, you know, if Bitcoin goes down here on the ratio, to move some of your NASDAQ back into Bitcoin, right? Optionality is a good thing. It's good for your mental state, right? It's very hard being all in one thing, all out another thing. You have FOMO one way, you have FOMO the other way. It just sucks. Like, don't buy 100% of positions. You know, keep some cash so that no matter what happens, you feel psychologically good. Feeling psychologically good is pretty important. Ollie, yeah, the MSTR chart I was going to pull up next, actually. So this is like a big concern to me, right? This is, I would argue, the main reason for the Bitcoin run-up was a combination of the market front-running all of the aspects of a Trump presidency, which are, I still think in the end, wildly bullish, right? And they've been wildly bullish in stocks for the most part, right? And a lot of other areas. Crypto doesn't anchor to reality as well as stocks do. Like it undershoots and overshoots, right? And so it's sometimes like wildly mispriced because it so quickly prices in and prices out things, right? So I think that the market saw Trump. They're like, Bitcoin reserve, we're going to price this probability. We're going to price the probability that we go off the dollar or some crazy shit, or, you know, who knows what the orange man's going to do. And then we had Saylor just buying by the absolute truckload, right? And it was just like a narrative of like smart money was just kind of front running Saylor, right? They just saw he was going to buy infinite, and then he kept buying, right? And then when he stopped being able to buy infinite Bitcoin, like it's not surprising that those people with smart money was selling, right? And selling at a level, if Bitcoin goes to like 30K from here, you're going to feel really fucking stupid because it's going to be like, oh, you didn't notice that everybody was selling at the $100,000 mega big fucking number while Saylor was running out of ammo? You didn't think that was like a red flag? While Trump launched a meme coin? Nothing toppy there? So one of those things in retrospect that'll seem very, very obvious, right? This chart is fucking terrible. This is a bad chart, right? This is pretty clearly a double top, right? And so the expectation is at the barest of minimums, I would say, that we run out these lows. But in reality, I think price is going to test out this area of monthly demand, and this is the monthly demand pre-election, right? This is where all the smart money bought before the election, right? This is kind of where we were YOLOing some shit coins pre-election last year. If you follow me on Twitter, I said, fuck you, Trump is winning. You guys are idiots. Do not gaslight me. I'm buying shit coins. And that ended up being a good trade. But like now that's all played out. But it makes sense for price to go back to kind of the origin of all of the madness, right? And often this is the way price moves, right? Smart money accumulates during periods of depression. You get the big pump, smart money distributes, people FOMO in here, and then they like are underwater and then they're like, oh fuck, I gotta sell. And then the smart money comes back in, they buy, sometimes at the same levels, and then we run it up again, right? So will that happen? Possibly, yeah. Possibly. But this chart in general is bearish for Bitcoin because as this chart goes down, Saylor can't buy, and not only can Saylor not buy, like all these questions arise of like, oh, is he gonna have to start selling, or there's some sort of skeletons in the closet, and people don't like that uncertainty. And when there's uncertainty, people sell, right? So this is, I would say, bearish for Bitcoin, not a good thing, right? This whole treasury company narrative, by the way, is also going to be one of these things that, in retrospect, if everything goes to zero, was like, oh, you guys didn't notice that like we were just like launching IPOs that issued stock to buy the coin, so it made the stock go up. So they issued more stock to buy more of the coin. So I know it does sound a little Ponzi-ish when you put it that way. Now, I don't think all of these things are Ponzi's. I actually do think MSTR is pretty legitimate. I think there's like a legitimate business behind like accumulating massive amounts of the Bitcoin supply in the long run. I think there's utility there that can be parlayed into an actual business. I actually think the same thing is true of ETH, right? I think that ETH arguably is a better model for the treasury thing because ETH itself is kind of more of a productive asset than Bitcoin is. It's got yield. It's got like all this utility in DeFi. There's reasons for people to want to own it and do things with it. But again, like, you know, a lot of bubbles, they follow this pattern, right? Where they just, and then they go higher. It's very rare that some hot narrative comes out, it pumps. Like when was the last time you found some hot narrative that was like super pumping and you just bought while it was pumping and then it just went up only forever and then you made money? Usually you buy the top, it dumps, you sell, you hate yourself. And most of the time that ended up being a scam, but then sometimes it wasn't a scam and then it like repumps to 10x your initial bag that you sold the top at and then you hate yourself, you know? So fun topic. Ollie, I like the idea of Bitcoin miners leading Bitcoin, like gold miners have led gold. Probably wishful thinking. Yeah, I don't know. There's some truth I've seen to the idea of TradFi crypto stocks like leading crypto, but like I don't know. I haven't looked at some of the Bitcoin miners in a while. It's interesting because you've got stuff like Hut. Like this looks great. What a chart! Amazing. Riot. I mean, pretty good. Not the most ideal monthly candle last month, but like looks better than Bitcoin. TeraWolf is we bought this in the Discord a couple weeks ago. TeraWolf is very anchored in AI, so it's not even like super like Bitcoin adjacent, but also like, you know, it's just a good chart. It's a good monthly trend. Looks good. Jensinius, what? Steven, what's your odds for against higher BTC and ETH prices in December Q1? Higher than what? Like today or high like new highs? I'm assuming you're meaning new highs. Let's go back to the Bitcoin chart. Let's talk about how I probably see this playing out. I have more conviction in the higher time frame stuff, and then as we zoom into like the daily chart, I have less conviction. There's a lot more path dependency. Things could be kind of whack, right? One of the main reasons I was telling people to sell last week in one of my posts is this chart here. This is 3-day 3-day chart, pretty basic trend, right? You can see we lost the trend here, and we nuked. We nuked hard. Here, there's a clear loss of trend, move down, underside retest, right? So what I was saying last week when we were, trading kind of more in the 110, 111 range was that, like, look, at this point in time, the asymmetry is skewed, because if you're not in the market, your risk is like your sort of opportunity cost in a way. Like, you may have to buy back higher. But I think that if Bitcoin moves and holds above like 116 or so for a bit, I actually think there's a very good chance this whole idea is invalidated and we push back up, right? So that means if you sell or de-risk heavily, at least at like 111K, like you might miss like a 4 or 5% move, and then you get back in the market, maybe you ride this back up to 160 or whatever it goes to, right? But if the top is in, then your downside risk could be like 65, 70%. And the trend is down. There has been a clear attempt to hold above this level. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 taps of this level. Generally not a good sign, right? And so at a bare minimum, if you fail to hold outside the range, you typically go back to the mid-range. The mid-range is around here. You've got the yearly open, which is a pretty key level, I would say. Here, right? Some liquidity here. Run this consolidation maybe, right? So something like this and bounce. I have pretty strong conviction that we go here and bounce, right? The question becomes, do we roll over and die? Do we sweep that low, tag that origin zone, and then go up? Does it give a shallow pullback here, reclaim and go? Shallow pullback here, bounce, then do this, right? All of these things are possibilities, right? Once we start getting like kind of micro on it. But that's like why I, am just kind of anchored to the higher time frame stuff, right? Like I have pretty strong feeling that this range breakout is a failure, right? So then this level, this kind of 91K level or so, becomes kind of a given in my mind. This whole demand area at the origin of the zone is pretty high probability, like 81K, right? That is kind of high probability stuff. And the probability of us just like reversing to new highs from here is kind of low. And then what happens in between, I don't know. We take that kind of week by week. Crypto coin Sellite, it's not came above the pie chart yet. And that's sitting at 2. You talking about the pie indicator, the pie cycle top? I don't know. I don't look. It is true that none of the real Bitcoin top indicators have like really fired up, other than the fact that like you can clearly see long-term holders have been distributing and selling, right? And ETF flows have been like holding us up. So, God help us if those reverse. I'm not calling like a cycle top. It is my expectation that it is not the cycle top, but I'm showing you warning signs that in retrospect will make it pretty fucking obvious that it was the cycle top, right? But I'm showing you reasons why I think it's pretty strong probability that we see 90, 80K or so, right? And my conclusion there is to, not be overweight and to probably not own alts right now at a minimum, right? Because we'll jump into that next. But everything kind of flows downstream of the Bitcoin. So we're starting with the Bitcoin here, So let's start looking at some of the other charts. Let's talk about like the other end of the crypto risk spectrum here. Like let's talk about others right? So others dominance, this is basically the share of the coins outside the top 10 relative to Bitcoin. And this chart is also ugly as sin, right? Because it's just, it looks pretty high time frame, head and shoulders-y, right? You would have expected, if this was bullish, to maybe come down to this order block and give a strong reaction, and that has not really happened, right? So it's kind of my baseline assumption, especially since this is kind of like the range that broke above this high. You can see initially a nice reaction, hold the mid-range, but then we dump below it, right? We're clearly, so this low, this range low, I feel like is on the table. And that would mean coming all the way back down to the 2016 area of demand for altcoins. The real shit coins of the shit coins, right? And does this make sense? Honestly, yeah. Like, it's very obvious that crypto altcoin sentiment has sort of intergenerationally topped. We had the hopium phase, the years where there was like tech, and then we kind of did our like meme coin nihilism thing. And then obviously that didn't stick either. And now we're sort of going into the trough of disillusionment, if you will, right? So we're going to play out this kind of, who knows how fucking long this takes. Maybe we do like an internet bubble thing. Maybe it takes like 8 years. I don't know. But that seems like the future. There's nothing bullish about this chart. We're below monthly trend, right? We're probably below weekly trend. Like, there's no reason. You're just averaging into a downtrend right now if you're just buying generic shit coins. Like, don't do it. Like, you're way better off just buying leaps on some freaking AI or robot stocks or something. Like, at least there's like a reason for people to buy those things. Like, if you want to gamble, probably a better place to gamble. I think you are probably being a sucker buying an average altcoin here. Now, I think there's some pockets within crypto where things are not hopeless. There's definitely projects that have revenue, that have like legitimate ETF and TradFi flow potential in coming years, right? So it's not everything, but it's the bulk of it is trash and not looking good on like very, very high time frames, right? Like, I was willing to give this stuff a chance, kind of like in here, right? It made sense to maybe be a buyer in here, but like, it is bad right now. It's bad. So maybe at this 2% level, it looks interesting again, but that's a long ways down on the others dominance chart, right? Other interesting chart is just your total 3 market cap, which is everything besides Bitcoin, ETH, and stable coins. And this is the total 3 ES ratio to BTC, right? So again, this looks pretty bad. Like, this looks like some generationally bad stuff right now, right? Still, like, I don't know, maybe that holds, but like, still better off, I think, waiting for like some strength and like clear reclaim of this trend, right? Because again, this is like high time frame bearish monthly trend. Like, you don't really want to be making long-term moves when you're below like monthly trend. You're talking about like very high time frame bearish order flow there, right? So I think there's some outside chance some of this stuff could bottom here, but like, again, like, this is kind of the next demand here. This is this 2016, 2017 area, right? So are we on the verge of just like actual mega capitulation? It's definitely possible. It's definitely possible. This chart looks terrible. You know, typically when you get these sort of double tops like this, you know, this low is typically a weak low. This low typically gets taken. There's nothing below here. It's just a bunch of air. So it wouldn't shock me if it just dumped all the way down. Again, just not an attractive setup right now to be generically buying altcoins. Yeah, guys, if you have any requests or whatever, just questions, just drop them in the chat. I'll probably just do this flow and then come back and get to them all. Here's just your generic others chart. So this isn't a ratio. This is just the total market cap of the coins outside the top 10. And again, this looks like really bad. Like this looks like double top with like a head and shoulders for the second double top. And here's our monthly trend. It looks like we're hanging on to this for dear life. It's very easy to see like a November close like through here. And then again, like I don't know if this area holds, like probably a bounce, but like it again looks like it's going to just take out all of this and kind of come back here into this 2018 bear market low, right? So this is interesting because the great trader, I remember the great trader GCR called for an echo bubble somewhere in like mid 2022. Echo bubble being like a bubble that is not really a bubble. It's a echo of the prior bubble. It's a big dead cat bounce. And I do wonder if that is what you just experienced, just like a big dead cat bounce in alts. And if so, there's a lot of people right now saying stuff like, oh, everybody's bearish, so it can't be the top. And it is true that everybody's bearish, but what doesn't really matter is sentiment. What really matters is how everybody is positioned. And honestly, like how many of you have capitulated and sold all of your crypto? How many of the people you know who are in crypto have capitulated and sold all their crypto? I think we're in the stage right now, possibly, where it's like 2022, spring 2022, kind of a Luna crash area. There's an area around here where like everybody was like pretty fucking bearish. We just had this like sell off. But like most people hadn't actually sold yet, right? And then when this happened, like people were forced to sell. Then they sold. Then you had like capitulation, right? So I don't know that the fact that everybody is bearish right now really means anything, because I get the vibe that all of the retail that's holding all of these altcoins like is still like kind of clinging to hope, but just with like a bearish vibe, and they haven't actually dumped everything yet and completely left the space and given up. So that's kind of my worry at the moment. Santino, point of view of a losing trader. That's me. Just a big old losing trader. The anger in the comments, you know, it's never a good sign. Sometimes a sign of denial. I don't like to be bearish. It's not fun being bearish. Like I make bullish posts. I get like 1,000 retweets and just posting bull hopium. But like, you know, whatever. If I'm bearish, I'm gonna tell you guys I'm bearish. And again, it's good to be bearish here because it's very obvious where to flip bullish, right? If it keeps going down, it's like kind of hard to know when to flip bearish, because it's going to go down more, and then you're going to be in one of my areas where it's just like, oh, he said it would bounce here. But is it the bottom? Like, I don't know. You're just in an awkward spot. It's a very awkward spot. What else are we talking about here? All right, so that's kind of like the generalized altcoin picture at a high level. Let's talk about the big daddy of altcoins. That is Ethereum. You know, start looking at the chart here. A couple big areas of interest. This is kind of like the big daddy range, right? This is the range that took liquidity for the top of the glorious 2021 bubble, as well as the bottom of the horrific 2022 bear, right? So this is kind of your very high time frame dealing range. This is the thing that governs all price. You can see the interaction with the mid range here, right? This is even more visible if we pop on the weekly chart, right? So you can see how price kind of respects this area. Big point of interaction, right? So if there's a failure to close outside of your range, except outside of your range highs, basic kind of like auction theory of price. How does price move? It tries to find buyers and sellers, tries to find an equilibrium. If it's unable to accept outside of a value area, what does it do? It tends to want to at first go back to the sort of prior equilibrium of that value area, which is normally around the mid-range, right? So mid-range, 2,800. But in reality, there's nothing here, right? This is just an air pocket. So I suspect we either take out these lows, which is kind of around where the yearly open is, right? So you could maybe see something like this. But if we lose this, I think it probably wants to come all the way back to some of this prior demand that was just completely untouched. And then you also have the 200-week moving average down here, right? So there's a lot of reasons, I think, for price to want to go back down here if we dump. The other range that we were kind of operating in was this range, which was your sort of 2024, early 2025 kind of dealing range. And this was an important range because this was the liquidity grab up here and then a major liquidity grab down here, right? Forming the bottom this year. So completely normal for us to tick this range high and sell off, right? That happens all the time. It's very rare that everybody just gets long and we break out and everybody makes money and gets girlfriends. Not a typical thing you see. Also not bad for us to dip back inside this lower time frame range and go to this order block here, right? Also not that big of a deal. But when price goes back to the level, goes back to the level, goes back to the level, what do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is our 6th stab now on the weekly chart. Is price really just letting everybody load up in this very obvious area here, and we're just going to reclaim now and go back up? I suspect not. I suspect not. And that's the reason why I sold up here last week around where we bought, which is around like 38.50 or so. We had been kind of like accumulating a swing long in the Discord all month, kind of TWApping it, got in at a pretty good entry price. And I liked being long here because what I had said is like, if we get a bad monthly or weekly close, I'm just going to get out because I know when to get back in. And if it ends up being bad, then like, I don't know when to sell after that. Right? It's just easier to kind of be the first person to panic. He who panics first panics best sometimes, especially in crypto. So on the weekly chart, like we had a bit of a red flag second week of October with this close here. But I said I was going to give it another close to kind of reverse. And you see that sometimes. And we got that. But then we didn't get any follow through last week. In fact, we got another close lower, a close back inside this zone here, another close back inside this range. And then when I paired that with like the monthly chart, I was like, okay, like this is just not looking good. I'm out, right? So you already had the sweep of the high with the August expansion candle. Again, like not that big of a deal. And that candle did close outside of this range here. So again, chance we can be accepting, just retesting the range high. Pretty nice consolidation candle in September, right? Consolidate a little bit inside this expansion candle, close above the range high. This is all good. The thesis for the October long was that we were going to have a sweep of this consolidation and a reclaim of the range high, and then we would push up, right? So we were looking to position on a sweep of this low into this order block here, right? And that's what we got. And we got some good buys in around here. But price did not, if this is kind of like a manipulation, you usually have that move, a little bit of accumulation, and we go back up. Like it doesn't give a bunch of time lingering here normally. So when we saw that, and then we saw like the October close, which was a bearish close below the close of the prior consolidation. It's a close back inside this weekly demand on the monthly time frame. It's a close back inside this range, right? These are all, they're all red flags, right? Again, like none of this is an exact science. There's not a 100% chance that because this candle closed here, magically price does something. But it's like probabilistic thinking and kind of like analysis of risk reward, right? And as soon as this happens, like it's like, same kind of idea on ETH with the 3-day chart here, right? There's a clear loss of momentum on the 3-day chart, underside retest, and now we're under it. So I think if you get like a strong move back up and reclaim this level, reclaim the 3-day trend, like I think you can get back in. Like I think this is probably good enough to just be like, all right, fuck it. That was a nasty kind of double fake out. Cool. We put in like some double bottom or something here. I don't know. We'll get back in, right? But I don't want to assume that's going to happen at this point. Like I want to assume the worst at this point. Like I want to protect capital. I don't want to eat, where we get out. It's potentially, 40% downside, which by the way is still fine. Like this is still bullish, right? This is still just higher high, higher low, and we can go back up. It's not like the end of the universe. Like this is normal crypto volatility. It's just something I don't want to sit around and eat. Like I don't want to sit here for years or however long it might take and eat 40%. Like I don't, not into it. Not into it. Solana looks similarly terrible. We sold Solana way back in the spring. Sometimes it takes a long time for these things to play out, right? And especially on the monthly chart. Like we sold like kind of back in February. This kind of looked bad. But since then, like you get this like huge pump, right? And there's a point where like if you sold, you probably sold at the wrong time and you felt like a fucking idiot because this thing pumped 160%. But like on the really high time frame, like I just don't think it looks good, right? It's just, this is not a pretty pattern, right? There's multiple failures to close outside the range. If you just pop to like a yearly candle, right? Pretty nasty sweep of the range high. This candle's high. This candle's low is a target. This is just trading candle to candle, right? It's not that big of a deal. But when you zoom out of this chart and you go into like a 3-day chart or something, that looks like the freaking apocalypse, right? But this kind of makes sense to me. It makes a lot of sense that price is ranging here. It fails to accept outside this end. And so what do? Maybe we go back down to the bottom of the range and then we deviate the bottom and then we go back up, right? This is just normal price action. So Solana looks pretty interesting, I think, like sub $80, something like that. But do you want to be buying it here? God help you. God help you. Again, similar thing on the 3-day trend. We lost it back here, underside retest, and then we dumped 52%. You got the same thing here, underside retest. And if we dump 50% again, that takes you down to this low, So looks pretty bad. And I think if you go further out the risk spectrum, right, you start looking at things like meme coins. Like this is best viewed on a log chart probably as this is Pepe. Again, same thing here. 3-day trend, lost, nuke. This just looks like a multi-year mega top pattern, right? And we've tried to come into this zone and hold. I tried to be a Pepe bull. No. Doesn't look good. Not looking good, bro. This is kind of like your last kind of high time frame area of demand. This is a long way down. This is 80% or so. And a lot of stuff kind of similar to Pepe looks like this. Looks very dumpy. Looks very bad. Looks very bad. Would not be holding this stuff right now. Would not. All right, let's go over some questions here, I guess. Let's see, what are you guys asking for? Hopium for hype. Look, hype is one of those coins that I still own because it has a reason for owning it. It's a real app. It's a real company that like makes money and drives value to the token. So it kind of makes sense to own it. This is not a great setup right now. Like I'm actually considering selling more of the bag. We sold a bunch. We had the good fortune of buying this thing like down here at like $10 and made quite a gain on it. Sold a bunch of it up here around like 42 or something. Was debating whether we were going to kind of go back up, but I don't know. This again is kind of similar loss of trend, underside retest kind of thing. Maybe been worrying for like literally like 6 months at this point. I think that hype is going to go back to 17, 18 bucks or so. Kind of like a mid-range thing going on. A little order block here. Makes sense to me. This certainly does not look amazing at the moment. I would say it looks like you had a obvious break of structure and then a kind of just classic underside retest of the supply that broke structure. We're not putting in a new high here. So the anticipation would be that you get continuation to the downside to take out this low, but like there's nothing under here. Like this is just air, right? This is just up only price action. So I don't know, like a worst case scenario. I mean, this is kind of like the serious demand, the origin of the move, which we never really tagged, is all the way back here where we initially bought at like $10 or something. So that would be lame. So I don't like buying hype here. I don't. I think if you get like a reclaim of $50 or something, like maybe you can make like a case for some sort of like invalidation, like manipulation, continuation trade. Like you would basically be breaking this lower high and then kind of reclaiming this little range here. And then maybe you could push up. Maybe you could do that as a trigger. But like when I zoom out on this, it looks iffy. Like you're buying broken 3-day structure into a flipped bearish 3-day trend. It's not what I would call a high probability fat pitch kind of setup. So that's kind of how I'm viewing hype at the moment. Again, like I don't like going all in, all out usually, especially if you have a long-term thesis on this. Like I hate to like dump the whole bag and you got shaken out and then you never get back in. But sometimes it can be okay on you mentally to sell like even just 5, 10, 20% of the position if things look bad. And if it goes back up, like whatever, take the money and buy some Tesla stock or something and move on with your life. It just sucks, like round tripping, like huge moves like this. It's just so psychologically painful. And again, you can always buy other stuff with the money. Obviously, taxes are a consideration, but such is life, you know. Tau. I actually have not looked at Tau in a long time. I know there's been a little bit of an AI pump going on lately, and stuff like virtuals. I mean, this October candle is extremely strong. This is what a strong candle looks like. You wiped everything and then just mega expansion close to the upside. Like, so that alone would make me lean bullish on something like this, right? And then it would be a question of like, well, where the hell do I get in? That question is a little iffy here, right? Because you've got basically this range, which you've kind of swing failed last week. And then there's still a bunch of supply here above you. So that's not ideal. So if I were to get into this, I mean, there's a couple things I guess you could frame this around. The weekly trend here looks interesting. You get some sort of pullback to the weekly trend, ideally some sort of like sweep, right? Some sort of liquidity grab where you can frame an invalidation after a pullback. That looks interesting. I don't know if I would buy literally right here. I think if you don't mind eating like a drawdown, like you don't mind eating like a 30% drawdown or something, like I would say actually the longer time frame chart looks potentially okay. So I'm not gonna hate on Tau. I just don't know what to do over the next like week or two on it. I would like to see a little lower in the range for a buy personally, but it doesn't look super bad. Sui, I am guessing, looks like a steaming pile of dog poo at the moment. What are we doing here? Okay. Yeah, this is not great at first glance. So Sui, this is your high time frame zone. So in that regard, it looks less horrible than some other stuff. There's been quite a lot of acceptance and consolidation above this area. We even closed October above it, right? That being said, the chart looks structurally similar to me than some of the other alts, and less so than something like Tau, which like I could make a case for being bullish on. So I would expect this to kind of follow in the footsteps of Solana, right? Sui's pretty tied to Solana, and I don't see a world where Solana goes to like $70 and Sui does well. The mid-range of this around like $1 is generally going to be a good place to buy, I think. And yeah, I mean, this looks to me like it's had a chance to come up and make a new high. This low failed to do that. It was breached in the downtrend. This is probably just a bounce. We're well below the 3-day trend here. And I'd say like any bounces into this are probably for selling. It looks like it wants like a good deal lower, right? I would be surprised if it didn't go down another 50% from here at some point initially. Fetch is another AI play. Does not look as good. Holy. I haven't traded this coin in a hot minute. Well, I mean, I guess you're at range lows, so but like that is a bad monthly candle, especially in light of what the other AI stuff did. So, you know, I'd probably trade the other AI stuff. You know, virtual I know has been shilled by the influencers. Virtual again put in like a pretty nice. This is a nice monthly candle. This is a good monthly candle. Like this is actually a pretty bullish monthly candle. I know Andrew Kang was shilling it up here, and then it obviously just nuked. But this is kind of an interesting spot on it, to be honest. This is kind of like a key level right here. This $1.40 level. You've got this kind of opening price from the OG Binance listing. This is obviously a range inflection point here. And you had this range here, which we were trying to accept back inside, ended up rejecting and going lower. But it seems as though we're back inside this range now. You've got the 200-day here. You've got the range low here. And you've got some semblance of bullish structure at least, right? Because you've got this very obvious order block here. You've got your higher high with some acceptance above the zone. This is the mid-range of the order block. So there's a lot of like interesting reasons to buy here, I think, on virtual. It's not ideal that we're below the daily trend right now. Might still need some time to shake out, but like I could see an argument for being long this and for why this pocket of crypto might do okay. So wouldn't hate on you for that. Daniel, you want AVAX? I got to tell you guys, most of these non-AI coin charts, you're going to be me saying the same thing because these things are all the same trade for the most part. AVAX was looking good for a bit. We caught one nice move off of it, and then it died on us. Yeah, I mean, this is not good. It's a shitty monthly candle. You're below monthly trend. You're below weekly trend. You're way below daily trend. Like this looks like all kind of like an all bounces are for selling kind of thing. Yeah, I don't see an obvious play here. I'd probably be interested in buying at like $3 if they gave it to me. Other than that, though, I don't know. This kind of falls into the category of like the charts I was showing earlier, where it just like has like a lot of the stuff just generationally super topped, and this is all just like an echo bubble bounce before it all just like really like turbo capitulates. That is a real possibility in my mind. I don't see the risk reward for trading stuff like this right now, or investing in stuff like this right now. Trading this stuff could be pretty profitable if you know what you're doing because it moves a lot, but like, yeah, investing is it's a sketchy thing. Daniel, I know you were asking me about shorting Poog Lagoon. You're also talking about shorting. Yeah, so shorting crypto is both potentially profitable and extremely dangerous. The problem with shorting this stuff, especially the trash, is like it can just rip in your face so fucking hard on like headlines or something that is often just like engineered for like exit liquidity, and then you're your short stops like are that exit liquidity, and it sucks, right? If you're going to short, it's interesting to basically, like, I would prefer to short stuff like Solana or ETH because the liquidity is deeper. There's less scamminess to it, right? And if you're on leverage, you can simply lever the trade up to whatever size matches your sort of risk tolerance anyway, provided you understand how to do this, right? You don't generally want to short something like Sol here, right? You've had the underside retest and it's moved away quite a bit, right? I'm trying to find like a monthly point where I think like price is probably not going to go back above, right? On the monthly chart, like it would be very hard for me to see a world where we go back above the October open, right? If we're bearish, I could see a world where this scam pumps above the November open. You sometimes get price moves back above the open, all right? So that would be a possibility. That would also make sense because there's kind of like this is like an order block here. So it wouldn't be unheard of for price to return to the order block, run a little bit of liquidity, liquidate the late shorts, and then go. This is kind of the thing you're looking for. One thing you can do is to try to align that move with things like the trend. So here's the 3-day trend. So if we get a move back into the 3-day trend into this order block, take some like lower time frame liquidity, that could be an interesting spot. You could go down lower time frame to something like the 4-hour trend. You can see how far away we are from the 4-hour trend. And we've taken a bunch of liquidity here. You don't want to be shorting this stuff after liquidity is taken, after it has moved quite a bit after the trend, especially on like an opening month move, because sometimes these opening month moves are like fake outs and they reverse completely and then like reverse back in the other direction. It's very dicey business, right? So some sort of move back into trend, back into some sort of established order block that you think price is going to hold below. Like I could see an argument for, you know, this whole area holding. So something like that could be interesting. But like if you're taking shorts to levels that I'm pointing out, like this monthly low or this monthly low, or even like this low here, right? These are very high time frame levels. And so they have to be taken from very high time frame areas. Otherwise, like if you're shorting to like a monthly level from like a 1-hour area, then you know the movement of price on those higher time frame ranges is almost probabilistically guaranteed to stop you out just sort of with the random walk of price. Price expands, it then retraces, consolidates, and in that retracement and consolidation, you sometimes get the sort of volatility blips that take you out before the next move happens. So my advice generally on shorting alts is to not do it unless you know what you're doing. If you do it, you probably need a wider stop than you think by a wide margin. You probably need smaller size by a wide margin. And when price is moving and you're FOMOing in and you think you have to buy, you probably do not, or excuse me, sell. You probably do not need to sell there. Oftentimes, if I really want to short a coin and I just feel like the chart is going to dump, I might buy like 10 or 20% of the position, thinking about where the stop would be on like the monthly level. So I might buy with a stop at like 186 or something, right? Which would be pretty wide and would not be that big of a position. But I feel like you'll find if you do that and then you watch price for a while, the levels where you would have put your stop taking that lower time frame FOMO entry often become the levels that get liquidated and give the real entry. You'll often find that your initial entry, your initial stop on that entry is actually the real entry for the next move. So that'd be my general advice at a high level. if that is helpful. Yes, guys, destroy the like button if you're liking the content, please. Show me that this is worth it to do more. Let me know that you love it. It's cool that we got like 40 people in here. You guys just show up for the charts even when I'm not here. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to me. I'm gonna try to do more content. It's the least I can do when this market is so godforsaken, hideous. How long's the stream been going? About an hour. All right, we're gonna wrap it up soon. You guys have any other questions? Mike Ferroni, are you still in Blur? Yeah, I still have a tiny Blur position. I didn't buy like a huge bag. It was kind of like one of those, I think this can pump kind of things at some point. Blur is launching a trading terminal, and the trading terminal is probably going to be pretty good. But like, does this chart look good? No, this looks terrible. And I am down bigly. Down like 30% on my spot buys here. But, you know, I did size it like a lotto ticket. So good things there. Yeah, like my Blur position is not big enough to the point where I care about it, right? It is like the process of me even going into my wallet to sell it to reclaim that money and save like 30% or something is just like I would just keep it because like again like it was just a longer term spot play because I saw this catalyst coming. So Zcash, oh yeah, Zcash has been like the only good coin outside of AI stuff, really. Yeah, I took some profits on Zcash today as well, Gensinius. Honestly, it still looks pretty good. Still looks pretty good. It's been a very fascinating pump to watch. But nothing about this chart looks toppy to me. I would say if it were to nuke from here, the nuke would be a buy. Because like, I feel like at a minimum, you're going to get some sort of consolidation and like a big manipulation or something like that, right? Or you very frequently like see like, you know, the top put in and then it dumps and people are like, it's over, and then does the other run up and takes out that and then it dumps. But it doesn't usually top like this. This looks pretty good. Like I would say if you want to be in crypto, this is a pretty good thing to trade. This is probably the best looking chart in all of crypto, to be honest. It's just like a very strong uptrend. That was like an insane monthly candle. There's nothing immediately bearish about this. You do always have to be a little careful when you get these big monthly expansion candles. Like sometimes price likes to use that as the reversal point, like we had here, big expansion candle. What happens? That's the reversal point. We go all the way back down. So it's worth monitoring the previous monthly high for signs of bad things. But I'm thinking if I go down to like a 4-hour chart, right? There's not even like a break of structure here yet. Like even though we swept high, which kind of came back into this 4-hour order block and back up we go. So nothing there yet. Nothing there yet. Like you can see here when we had the sweep, there was at least a break of structure and then a lower high and then everything dumped, right? Whereas here, there is just nothing structurally broken, even on like a relatively low time frame compared to the monthly chart, like the 4-hour. And this is just straight trend following. It's just pulling back into 4-hour trend and order blocks and continuation, right? So this is probably a continuation setup of everything, if anything. Like wouldn't shock me if this low is the low, right? And then just any kind of pullbacks or buys and we go higher. So Zcash looks pretty good. Zcash, just CT shilling or something more. You know, I don't know. I'm not smart enough to trade these narratives. I just trade charts. I just see if people are buying or selling and then do what the people are doing, and that's it. I know there's some narrative that like this is the privacy Bitcoin and it's better than Bitcoin for XYZ. I've just heard this like it's better than XYZ thing narrative like 10,000 fucking times. So I think Zcash is a really cool coin to trade right now. It's a really cool asset in general to trade right now. If I was actively trading crypto right now and not taking a break, I would 100% be trading Zcash right now and looking for longs on Zcash. It looks good. It looks strong. But like, I would not be holding any of the shit like over multiple weeks looking for like 10x's, right? I think you take your gains and you be a cockroach and get the fuck out and survive and just keep looking for spots, right? Because like the hopium that like this is definitely the 10x is gonna kill you. Marty, I don't know what you want me to do with these what do you want me to do with these Ben Cohen references? You want me to like you want me to copy his video intro? I need my own video intro. I don't know what it is yet. It'll just happen spontaneously someday. Welcome to the magical land of lines. No, that's terrible. Can't do that. Can't do that at all. All right. If anybody else has any last second requests, feel free to throw them out. Otherwise, I'm going to probably wrap up the stream there. It's good to hang out with you guys. I'm going to attempt to do this regularly. I'm going to attempt to do Magic Mondays. I need to make some return to the content arena. I miss the content arena. It's a lot more enjoyable than the trading arena. There's no pain in the content arena. You just make a video and it's fun and it feels good and you just move on with your life. Trading is pain. It's basically like 50% intense pain and 5% euphoria. My other wallet is a whale, wants to look at Zen. All right, I'll do Zen. I'll do Zen since you got it in before the deadline. I don't know what Zen is. Like Zen Horizon? Zenith Energy? You mean the coin Zen? Is this what you mean? I don't know what any of these things are. Privacy coin. All right, so we got a privacy coin narrative. Good to know. Okay. Interessante. What's the market cap on this bad boy? How much of a shit coin are we talking here? 300 million? Not bad. Not bad. Yeah, I don't know anything about this coin or what it does. It's interesting. It looks interesting. It's just a multi-year base that it seems to be exploding from retest to now going back up. So I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Kind of awkward on the lower time frames. I don't know. I guess if you wanted to trade it, you could basically say this is the bullish zone. Today was the retest, little fair value gap here. It's probably fine to do something like this, right? It's probably fine. Not like an ideal entry setup for how I like to take entries, but like I could justify it. Like if you think this is going to do some multiples from here. It's always the possibility that this thing just goes into prior supply and dumps, right? So it may honestly be prudent to watch this pump. Maybe it kind of tags the mid range here, does like a little pullback, and then you get in. Maybe that's better. But if you don't mind having like a wide stop, then yeah, I could like see an argument for, you know, getting in with stop at $10. But like it's a 45% drawdown from here. And I don't know how else to put an invalidation in there unless you want to go like really fucking tight with like this morning's low as the low, which is possible, but like I don't like that. So yeah, I like zoomed out. It's like maybe fine. Maybe fine. I'd still rather trade some other stuff though. Personally. But I wouldn't hate you for buying it. BTC dominance. We got a BTC dominance request. Yeah, BTC Dom is interesting. I think my summer read on BTC Dom was probably not correct. We did get that initial move, but I thought this was going to be a bounce and roll over. I'm not so sure it's going to bounce and roll over at this point. So what I'm wondering right now on BTC dominance is this like a very generational double bottom? In which case, like these highs are definitely getting taken, and then like who the fuck knows where this stops, right? So this is basically the fulfillment of the Bitcoiners, like all shit coins go to zero philosophy, which is mostly true, almost entirely true, versus Bitcoin. This is a pretty bullish chart on the monthly time frame because there's just a clean retest of trend. This is your monthly structure here, this order block. It's just perfectly tested and held. So I think this goes higher at this point. This was kind of a potentially interesting zone for a reversal. But when we hit the mid-range of this zone, and it doesn't put in a new low, and we're basically just, price is basically just reclaimed this range, as you can see. Retest, all good. Usually means to me that price is going for the range highs. And that would result in like 73, 74% Bitcoin dominance, which would be pretty wild because that is higher than the levels we saw during the peak of the 2020, like the pre-2020 bull run. So that would be pretty nuts, but it looks very plausible to me right now. It's very hard to argue for buying much other than Bitcoin for sort of longer term holds at the moment, unless you have like pretty strong thesis on something. Could make a case for ETH. I would strongly advise waiting for either lower or higher prices to get the entry, but I could make, you know, a pretty good case for like ETH's long run value still. I can definitely make arguments for stuff like Hyperliquid. The AI stuff, like I find it very hard to believe that this isn't anything other than like a narrative flash in the pan that goes to zero. So, you know, good luck holding that for anything more than a trade. BTC dominance bullish is coins die, like more than you even thought they could die. Like they're dead even more than they were currently dead as of this morning. It's not great. It's not great. I will say the one piece of hopium is it does look like the liquidity picture is going to be turning around in early December. There's probably some front running of that. You've got a new Trump Fed chair coming in the spring, and like there's an election coming up in November, and the Republicans are going to rig that election the same way that the Democrats rig the fucking market for their election. Right. This is just how it works. So I don't think we're going into any sort of like multi-year bear on like all of crypto. I think these upcoming catalysts, like if you have long-term time horizons, are actually pretty interesting for buying pain into. And I do suspect that Bitcoin doesn't go to 30K. I do suspect it just bottoms out around like 90 or 81 or something like that. And if so, it's just like, it's probably poetry, right? It's probably the thing the market always does, right? It probably just shakes everybody out right before it actually blows off. Because we're in the phase again right now where everybody's bearish, but nobody's sold. So then we get to the phase where like everybody's bearish and everybody has sold. And then that's probably the bottom. And then when it rips back up, all those people are like disbelievers at first. And then like the FOMO becomes too painful. And then eventually they rebuy the top and then it's dead for real. That tends to be the circle of life. But I still just think it's an interesting argument, like whether you should be buying some of this stuff or whether you should just be trading TradFi things, because the TradFi charts just look so much better. Even the TradFi charts that are crypto stuff, like the Bitcoin miners, right? They just look so much better. Or if you've bought, other things that are like gambling adjacent, right? I do think that hyper gambling as a narrative this is a component of my personal portfolio, right? Hyper gambling is a narrative, and I chose Hood as the embodiment of that narrative. And this chart is so fucking bullish. It's just like insanely bullish, right? So you look at a chart like this, and it's not like this coin hasn't, it's not a coin. It's not like the stock hasn't gone up a lot, right? Like it's up 1,700% since since the time that the market was like in the depths of hell. So you can still make like very big gains here. It's just like an interesting question of like, are you buying crypto because it's just something you've already done and you just are a creature of habit and you love pain? Or is there like a legitimate reason to do that? Again, if you're a fucking degenerate, you could still just buy options or some shit on this, and you could still get your return profile relative to your risk the same as it is on any meme coin. Not sure if I would recommend doing that, but you could do it. You could do it. Like this definitely looks like it's due for some sort of pullback. I mean, we are so far ahead of the monthly trend right now. We're pretty above the weekly trend, but like there's just no signs of weakness really. Just like an incredible looking chart. So there's all sorts of stuff that looks like this, and in TradFi, we've been buying some robot stocks in the premium group, and pretty excited about just continuing to buy all this futuristic technology stuff and, not eat the pain of crypto on a daily basis. I still like crypto and I'm still looking at it almost every single day. But I don't have this like irrational attachment for it anymore. And I think a lot of people are irrationally attached from it. And because I do think there is this real risk that you are looking at like a generational echo bubble and at least the long tail of crypto, while simultaneously you're blowing like the biggest bubble ever and like AI and biotech and all sorts of crazy shit. Like it would just be like a generational fumble if you spent all of your time and money investing in crypto at like the peak of like a year, almost decade-long run while missing out on this other bubble. It would just be like peak pain to look back on in 10 or 20 years. So like at a bare minimum, I would advise you guys to diversify your investments outside of this shit. Now is probably a good time to just like reset your allocation to whatever you think the ratio would be if you just buy everything from scratch today. You zeroed out everything. I would argue that allocation is below a standard weighting right now, because I think the risk is probably skewed more to the downside than the upside. And then that would give you some flexibility to sell some stocks and buy like like if there's some like insane nuclear meltdown and you're just like, okay, this is the bottom. There's some points where you're like, all right, this is actually the bottom. And if you get one of those points and like you want to sell some stocks and go back into crypto at that point, that's cool. You've got the optionality to do that. But like you're just trapped if you just go all in here and it just goes down more, and that's how you become like a forced seller at the actual bottom. And it just fucking sucks. It's just no way to live your life. So that would be my parting advice to you guys. Anyway, if you enjoyed the stream, please give it a like and turn your notifications on. I'll let you know when I go live next time. Hopefully next Monday. Hopefully this can become a regular thing with you and I. And just a reminder to check the links in the description for the free Discord, the premium Discord, my X. Give me a follow there. Join at least the free Discord. Hang out with the crew. We have a great time in the Alfalfa Discord. So thanks guys for tuning in. It's been a pleasure as always. I'll see you all next time.